You've tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, where you can check in for your dose of stigma-breaking, humor-filling, motivation-loving, life hacks, and empowering tips for all of the medically adultish people in your life. You know I'm Dominique Vale, founder of InvisiYouth and host of the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, and today is Season 5, Episode 70. And today, this episode is going to get us in the groove as we chat with someone who has brought movement and empowerment together in their life and career in a big way. I'm going to be talking with the motivational speaker, inclusivist, stroke survivor, and founder of the nonprofit and professional dance company Infinite Flow Marisa Hamamoto. As a proud Japanese American, Marisa has blended her education and professional experience to include dance from a young age, graduating from the Idlewild Arts Academy and completing her BA and MA at Keio University in Tokyo as well. In 2006, at the age of 24, Marisa experienced a spinal stroke and dealt with the major life change in her health and scope of living life from that. After witnessing wheelchair dance and doing research on the fusion of dance and disability, Marisa was inspired to create something that would allow people to experience dance and knowing that dance doesn't discriminate. And in 2015, Marisa founded Infinite Flow Dance, a really wonderful nonprofit and professional dance company that employs dancers with and without disabilities with a mission to use dance as a catalyst of promoting inclusion. From there, Marisa has been featured in Good Morning America, listed on InStyle's magazine Badass 50, and named one of People magazine's 13 Women Changing the World in 2021. And she's done one of my favorite things, everyone. She has done a TED Talk, and you all know how I feel about TED Talks. Marisa works to empower others through dance and thinks outside the box on how to create a more inclusive world through that lens. So I am so thrilled to have Marisa on the show today. Marisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dominique.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to get to chat with you and have you on the show. And as always, we encourage you guys at the start of the show to make sure you click subscribe if you are on YouTube or any audio podcast platform you are on. And also make sure you get through to the end of the episode. We have your favorite segment, So That One Time, coming up in a little bit, so you can stick through the entire way. And you guys have a little less than an hour to make sure you click that subscribe button while you're here. So without further ado, we're going to go into our first segment, Life Tinder Challenge.
Life Tinder Challenge. Swipe right.
We're going to take a new spin on one of your favorite segments from our early seasons of InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, and we're going to be talking about something that is a staple to Marisa's life and career. We're talking about dance. So we want to learn about all these different incredible dance styles that Marisa has gotten to take part in, that her dance company gets to be a part of and teach. And we are going to learn different things that would make someone want to swipe right on that dance style. So I know one of the first dance styles that was part of your life, and I know for a lot of people tends to be that foundational dance style, is ballet. So was there something that as a child that really drew you to ballet initially as sort of the first one that you really wanted to give a try?
That's a really good question. The long story short is that my mother was a piano teacher up until she got married. And after she got married and had kids, she kind of left that part of her life away. But she really believed in having her children learn music. And so, and she didn't want to teach us. So she took me and my brother, my younger brother at that time, to a piano school in Irvine, California, where I grew up. And I loved piano class, but I did not like practicing in between. And so it was kind of a drag for my mom to make me practice. And next to the piano studio was a dance studio.
Oh.
And I remember hearing piano music, out of the classroom. And I said, Mom, could I do that instead of piano? And, kind of seeing these girls dressed up in pink and, and twirling around and just having fun. Like I was drawn to that more than playing the piano itself. So I think it was by default that I came across dance. I definitely do not come from a dancing family. Whether it's formal dance training or even just just dancing for fun within the family. I do not come from a dancing family whatsoever. So my exposure to, I guess, dance was the dance studio.
I love that. It was, you found a way to incorporate the classical music, but in a way that you didn't have to practice the classical music. So I love that.
And in all honesty, I do regret not continuing piano. I think I might have continued, a weekly piano class for a couple years. So maybe between the ages 6, 7, 8. But I do regret not continuing because, I still remember a few things. And I'm like, man, I wish I can bust the song out on the piano, and sing with it. So, yeah.
Oh, no, I love that. And even kind of just on the so opposite spectrum of dance, the way that I was introduced to who you were was when you were featured in People magazine. And then I had looked more, and then I saw that you had done roller skate dancing, and the whole thing just fascinated the heck out of me. So is there something that's there besides just sort of the obvious thing of combining dance and roller skating? Is there something about that process that's just so interesting for you to do and make that fusion happen?
Yeah, well, roller skating came into my life just 2 years ago during the pandemic at a time when I was feeling lonely. I was missing the dancing. Yes, I ran some virtual things, out of my living room, but the human contact and just feeling lonely. And I felt like I needed to get my mind off of something, off of everything, all my stress. And I as much as I love dance, I've been dancing my whole life. And so I wanted to find another creative outlet that involved moving my body. And so I came across roller skating. Roller skating, I am not the only person that started roller skating during the pandemic. There are thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of us worldwide that have started to roller skate. It's just a very liberating feeling to be skating. My life's theme, it seems like, has been to continuously move my body and use my body to express myself. And, dance and movement has transformed my life in so many ways throughout my life. And so it's also my mission to share that transformative experience through dance and movement to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like you said, it wasn't even just, oh, I want to add a different style of movement and dance to my repertoire. It really came from wanting to, like you said, from the time period that you were in and wanting to keep moving your body and find new ways to do that. It really stemmed into something that's seems so fun and enjoyable as well for you to bring that together with your background in dance as well, and bring something so new into the experience of doing that with it as well.
Yeah, I really believe that we all need to move our bodies. And, whenever you are stuck, my advice always is, or the question I usually ask is, when was the last time you moved your body with joy? And oftentimes, when we're stuck and when we're frustrated or when we're stressed or when we come across a challenge, whether that's at school or in our family or at work, we need to somehow shift our mind, but also shift our bodies. We need to shift the state that we are in. And I think the shortest distance to kind of make that shift happen is through movement. When, what I like to say is that, our body language not only communicates to others, it also communicates to ourselves. So when you move your body with joy returns. When you move your bodies with intention, something about that will allow your mind and body to connect better, and you might come up with the next big idea. Who knows? So before Yeah. So like, I really encourage everyone to just, move their bodies every day, but not just move for the sake of move. And, I know that especially for, us adults, we tend to get into, oh, I've got to work out, I got to just do this for my health. And it becomes more of an obligation. But, find something that you enjoy. And when I say enjoy, it's something that you enjoy so much that time passes and you want to do more, but, you got to go and do whatever, do the next thing, For me, like, I think, oftentimes that joy comes from challenging my body to do something new. That's kind of how roller skating kind of came into my life. I felt like I needed what I call kinesthetic stimulation. I needed something that, would challenge my body, Yeah. And it's also kind of, I think some of this is also just inspired by my work, where I'm working constantly with dancers with various disabilities, and seeing dancers who traditionally don't fit the box of a dancer kind of bust themselves out of the box and do something that society would never think that they would be able to do. That also has inspired me. And being disabled myself, being autistic, having PTSD, being a stroke survivor, I realized that, I am part of like this community where each of us are continually transforming our perceived limitations into limitless possibilities.
Yeah. I like that you pointed that out too, because the one thing I was going to ask you that I love that you do is a lot of the dancers in the disability space that I've been introduced to through InvisiYouth have been wheelchair dancers. And so one thing I haven't seen a lot of, and that more through 8 years of InvisiYouth, I've gotten to see more and more of, have been partner dancing and with wheelchair dance partners. And that's something I see so often for yourself, having really phenomenal dance partners that are wheelchair users. So what has that partner process been like for you? That something that you enjoy? There's such a level of trust you have to build with a dance partner in general, and then to learn how they utilize their wheelchair as a piece of themselves to dance. That must be a learning experience that's rewarding to you as well in a whole different way.
Yeah, so I grew up, being, aspiring to be a ballerina, didn't quite make it. And the prime reason was I just didn't have the body that the traditional ballet world wanted to see on stage. But anyways, I continued to explore dance. Then I had the stroke. And, for about 3-4 years, I didn't dance. And in fact, I was scared to dance. Giving myself a second chance to my dance career, I just happened to come across salsa and ballroom dancing, and something about moving my body with rhythm initially, which is a little different from ballet, where it's a lot of it's stretching and it's musical in its own way, but not necessarily in rhythm. But this concept of moving your body in a specific rhythm, plus being able to dance with a partner, really fascinated me. And so I launched, and at this time, this was 3.5 years after my stroke, I had regained most of my mobility, except my hands were still partially paralyzed. And my left hand, to this day, compared to my right hand, I don't know if you can see, but right now, visual description here, my left hand's metacarpals are slightly hyperextended. And so I still have paralysis in part of my left hand. But anyways, at this time, 3.5 years after the stroke, I was still struggling to find mobility in my hands. And so because ballroom involved a lot of connection with the hands, I said, you know what, this has got to be good for my body. So anyways, I became very immersed in the ballroom world to the point that I ended up getting my teacher certification a year after I started. And long story short, when I started to also social dance outside of the dance studio, when I would actually go into the salsa community, the swing community, and dance with a bunch of people that I don't know, I started to realize that I was having conversations with people that I don't know, and connecting with people at so many different levels.
Mm.
And even for me, just whether it's age, race, gender, the disability didn't come in at this time yet, but regardless of who I was dancing with, it's a lot of my, let's say, perceived biases kind of, I don't want to say disappeared, but I found connection between people I would never ever think of becoming friends with or talking with. So something about this partner dancing, I was starting to find that, it's really just humans to humans connecting heart to heart. That's what it was. So anyways, so I go off, I moved to LA and, try to pursue this entertainment career. Yet I was starting to hit the same walls that I did as an aspiring ballerina, being told that, my body, I didn't have the look of the Hollywood dancer. Also being Asian American, I was being told that, you're salsa dancers, ballroom dancers, Asian Americans just don't fit that role, But, I also knew in my gut that dance was a universal language for everyone. Yeah. And living in the duality between believing that dance is a universal language that belongs to everyone, yet there was a dance industry, an entertainment industry that seemed like dance was only for a select few. Living that duality was really, really painful. Mm. Yet at the same time, as I kind of got older, I guess, I started to realize that, my body and my ethnicity were not the problem. Mm. The problem was the stigma, the stereotypes, the discrimination that was in our society. Yeah. And there was a part of me that felt like I wanted to be part of that change. Mm. And I didn't know what that was, but recognizing that 1 in 4 Americans and 15% of the global population have a disability, so that's like over 1 billion people globally, and recognizing that dance isn't accessible or equally accessible to disabled people, yeah. I knew that I had to do something. I was called to do something about this, about me making dance more accessible. So within that soul-searching journey, I came across Adelpho, who is one of my wheelchair dance partners today. But at that time, he had no dance experience. He was a paraplegic bodybuilder. And I happened to find him on social media, stalked him for a few days, and then finally messaged him saying, hey, would you like to dance? Like, I'm a stroke survivor. I'm kind of exploring this intersection between disability and dance. And would you like to try some ballroom dancing with me? And strangely enough, he said yes. And, and we lived about 30 miles away from each other. So I invited him to a dance studio I was regularly renting. And initially I was terrified to dance with Adelpho. I had never danced with someone using a wheelchair. And I was initially terrified, but after a couple hours of just experimentally trying to partner with Adelpho, I realized that dancing with Adelpho was nothing different from dancing with anyone else. And, and kind of goes back to just realizing that dance doesn't discriminate. And when you're dancing with someone, you see beyond race, color, size, age, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. And this moment of recognizing that dancing with Adelpho was nothing different from dancing with anyone else, this was such a breakthrough moment that I even went as far as thinking that, oh my gosh, if the world danced, then maybe we can prevent war. So wanting to really share this moment with as many people as possible, that eventually became Infinite Flow. And for me, the infinity sign represents two people dancing in eternity and harmony. So it's a symbol of inclusion. And oftentimes with our work, it's whether it's hip hop, contemporary, ballroom, whatever partner dancing, whatever dance style we do, I try to include partner work because it's still like we're still kind of we're still sending out that message that we could dance together. It's the togetherness. It's not about putting disabled people on a pedestal saying, hey, disabled people. I mean, and again, yes, of course, we're dismantling stereotypes and, of disability, breaking the stigma around disability. However, what I'm more interested in expressing is that we can coexist together, even with our differences. We can peacefully and beautifully coexist together, So kind of going back to your, partner dancing question, I think partner dancing is an incredibly powerful tool, for building connection. And I'll be very honest, I love roller skating. I absolutely love roller skating. However, the human contact part of roller skating was something that I hadn't been able to quite experience. Okay, do I occasionally, skate with a partner for fun? Yeah, but it's not the usual jam. It's not, I have maybe a couple people that we occasionally just kind of, link arms together and skate around. And one of them actually is a professional partner dancer, just like myself. But anyways, that human connection element was missing. So, recently I also started tango dancing, wanting to kind of go back to kind of having a kind of feeling that human connection through partner dancing in a slightly new way. I've done tango in the past, but this is maybe the first time 5 months ago was when I really dove into this new social dance area. So anyways, if you have never experienced partner dancing before, I do highly recommend that you do. It's also, it also teaches you boundaries. This is interesting. It's not just, from the outside, especially as professionals, yes, it sometimes feels very intense, an intense connection that we have between partners. And 99% of the time, this is dancing. There's not really romance behind the dancing. However, you just, and I think martial artists can agree with this too. You start to learn to really respect each other's space and bodies. Hopefully, with a good teacher at least. So, there's a lot of benefits to partner dancing.
No, you brought up so many good points. I just went, I'm not even going to ask the last question. We're ending on that one. But that's such a, like you said too, I've tried partner dancing, once as well, and tried, salsa dancing as well, partner dancing. And I did it with a friend of mine. And then we partnered with everyone else in the room, and it was fun doing it with a friend who you knew, and then meeting new people and doing that. Like you said, it's really, there's so many different ways you can really enjoy doing that and connecting with people that you do know and that you don't know. And building that connection for yourself of being around other people and testing those boundaries and what boundaries you'll have. And I think it's a really good point to end that segment on, Marisa. And before I go into my next segment, we always like to mention to you guys about something that we have that you can connect with, and that is our InvisiYouth charity shop. You will see it pop up next to me. If you've noticed, we now have our subtle activist color block bracelets next to me in our set if you are looking on our YouTube channel. And these are our handmade bracelets by our volunteers who have chronic illness and disability. They're $4 with free worldwide shipping. And 100% of all the sales are donations that go directly towards funding our free resources and programs year-round for teens and young adults with chronic illness and disability. So if you would like some chic, subtle activism in your life, as we always joke and say, they are like the Starbucks cup in the background of that Game of Thrones scene. They get that conversation going, and you're able to also donate to charity in a small way while doing that. So we have the link for our Etsy shop below, and if you're able to buy one for yourself or someone you care about, we thoroughly appreciate it. And now we'll go into our next segment, Chat Me Up.
Chat Me Up.
Hey, wanna chat?
Chat Me Up is our segment where we get to talk about how-tos and tips to get people talking on different situations that many of us in the chronic illness and disability space find ourselves in, and one that we hear about often that we want to chat with Marisa, about is for those in the chronic illness and disability space that develop their chronic illness or disability later in life. And when you have that sort of pre and post illness or disability experience, and you have that memory of quote unquote healthy living, and then the shift in your health, how do you adjust to those experiences? So the one thing I was going to just sort of initially bring up with Marisa was obviously, like you had mentioned, you being a stroke survivor, you have that kind of defined before and after. And was there something that you remember being either the biggest hurdle or that biggest sort of mental block of trying to move forward, when you kind of can remember how you did used to do things, or how things might have came easier to you before and after having your stroke? What was that kind of big hurdle that you would remember tackling in the beginning?
Yeah. So first of all, so for my stroke, my stroke, that when I had a stroke, when I was 24, at the most acute stage, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't move my legs. I had lost sensation through my entire body. So, for example, when my brain said, I need to go pee, nurse would carry me to the toilet, pull down my pants, but nothing would come out.
Oh.
That was the most acute stage. Now, about 2 months after being in the hospital, I did walk out. So I don't consider myself a former wheelchair user, which sometimes I do get mislabeled of. When I did leave the hospital, yes, I still had some challenges with my dexterity in my hands, and I still have a little bit of challenge in my left hand, as well. But I wouldn't consider, I think I left the hospital not really considering myself physically disabled anymore. So I didn't really experience life as a physically disabled person, besides being in the hospital. However, I will say, rehabilitation and healing is not just physical. It's also mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual. So for me, the stroke had triggered a lot of trauma from the past, and a lot of that trauma, was related to being rejected as a dancer. And long story short, I think for me, I was diagnosed with autism just last year, in midlife here. So for almost 4 decades of my life, I was living as an autistic person, was undiagnosed autism, not knowing that. And getting the autism diagnosis actually clarified, gave me more clarity than confusion. Some of the challenges I had socially growing up were related to my autism and not knowing how to process social situations. So, for example, when I was 15, I was betrayed by one of my school friends, and I didn't have many school friends. I had maybe one or two, and so that one friend at school had betrayed me. And I ended up not going back to school after that and chose to homeschool. So, and that was just, again, a combination of I was a straight A student, so my parents never thought that I needed, like, quote unquote, help or support. And so my parents were not aware of that there might be something going on. There might, I might have a disability. But I wasn't aware either. I just thought of myself as not being enough. And there was something wrong with me. And when the stroke happened, my immediate response was, what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Or why is there something wrong with me? It's like, but it was always just feeling like I was not enough. And I will say, after receiving the autism diagnosis, I got into another, I had a lot of flashbacks from a lot of social trauma in my life. However, I was able to recognize that there is nothing wrong with me. So, and I think as disabled people, we do have to kind of make our life work for ourselves. And what's been interesting, as someone who's been running a or leading a dance company that hires disabled and non-disabled dancers, for the last 8 years. Then suddenly, and up until like a year, I was considered a non-disabled ally in this space. And then suddenly I'm disabled. I am now autistic. It's something that I've actually been disabled my whole life, yet here I am trying to figure out how to tell my story newly tell my story. And all I will say to all of this is that I think the topic of neurodiversity is something that we're finally kind of arriving at talking about and destigmatizing. One of the challenges artistically within my dance company is that, people still think that we are a wheelchair dance company. Yes, the wheelchairs do stand out in our videos, but the reality is, and as you know, 70 to 80% of disabled people have invisible, non-obvious, non-apparent disabilities. So how do we show that? How do we show that in our work? Is something that I am starting to question on. How do we amplify that part of disability any, more? Do we have to have that wheelchair dancer or that dancer with a visible, obvious disability to make our work? So, and so I'm starting with, well, you are one person with an invisible disability. Why don't you figure yourself out first and start talking about it more? So, yeah. So, as you know, as a founding leader yourself, it's especially with grassroots organization, it still is the founder that kind of sets the tone and kind of steers the way, so, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you presented that too, because for a lot of people, they don't, when there is sort of this pre and post experience, and if there is a physical injury or a physical change, or but like you mentioned, even with that period of your life, there was still, you have to go through the rehabbing emotionally and mentally of different changes you'll have to make and adapting. And you've had to do that at different stages for different portions of your health journey at different stages as well. And it is sort of that, what we'll say is it's sort of you have to grieve a way that you used to live or used to look at the world and how it used to look at you. And you have to kind of go through that grieving process and allow yourself to be frustrated at times or be confused or be happy and sad about different changes that you've had to make or changes that have been made that were out of your control. And if you're able to kind of allow yourself to know that you don't have to just sort of snap into it and be like, all right, well, it is what it is, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. You can feel the different range of emotions about changes that your health or an illness or disability would make. You don't have to there's this sort of pressure to constantly be okay with it or projecting to be okay with it because that's your new normal and you have to learn to be okay with it. But that learning process doesn't just, okay, I've graduated from learning about now having this health change and now I get to move forward. It's still, I've had my health issues since I was 15. I'm now 30. So it's, there's still moments where I'll get frustrated when my chronic illnesses interfere and I still know how to adapt to it, but I'll still be like, oh, I have to do it this way. Okay. And it's just, it still comes at different points of time. So I like that you mentioned that full breadth of finding ways. And it kind of made me want to touch on too, something that we'll hear about often for a lot of young people is if they're dealing with a change in their health with an illness or a disability diagnosis, is if they want to go back to the things that they used to do. For myself, I played tennis, and then to go back, it's the nerves for my health physically. Am I going to get injured again? Is my health going to get worse? And it's this worry of, do I want to go back to something that won't be the same anymore than the way I remember it? So for you, dance has always held a constant point in your life. And then, like you had said in the last segment, you had to go for a few years without dancing. And then you went back into it after that period. So what for you was kind of how did you kind of grapple with, I want to go back into dance and dance means so much to me, but I know it probably won't look the same or have the same meaning or the same relationship with it as I used to have?
So for me, I just always believed in my gut that I was born to be a dancer. Mm-hmm. And not only that, as you know, even during my teenage years, I knew that I was not just born to dance. I was going to do something extraordinary with dance. In college and pre-stroke, there was a part of me that really believed that I wasn't just going to be a dancer. I was going to transform the world through dance. And I didn't know what that was. And then here is Marisa getting a stroke. I'll be very honest. I think even though, yes, I've hit a lot of walls as a dancer, you know, lots of rejection, a stroke, and, you know, and I still encounter, you know, I still go through, I go through a lot of hoops as well, but I truly believe that some of this, you know, these challenges were meant for me to be able to empathize with others who are othered and don't fit the box, and put me on a path to open more doors for other people to discover themselves as a dancer. So I will say I consider my dancing time my gratitude time. So like it's so easy to and yes, sometimes life is hard, and you know, living with chronic illness and disability can be hard. But I also believe that we can train our minds to think positively, you know, to be grateful for what we do have and what we can do, and always ask, you know, how could I serve? How could I serve? Like there's always someone that could use your skills or use your help, or use, you know, like there's always a way to kind of give back. And by being able to serve, that also means that you matter in the world. You know, at my most, I think 2-3 years after I had a stroke, in which I was still struggling, I was still traumatized by the incident, traumatized to go back to dancing because the stroke did happen during a dance class, traumatized from my past, and scared of putting myself out there because I was scared of rejection as a dancer and just altogether. Like when I was going through that, I had to kind of flip around and say, hey, well, you know, what can I do? You know, what can I do right now?
Yeah, so. I love that. It's like all reframing. Like you said, it's not, I'm only going to look at this from one lens and try to avoid the ways that like I'm going to ignore. I know I have limits and I'll only focus on the good things. It's reframing of how else can I utilize this skill and this thing that I love that I used to do, and how can I reframe it and still incorporate it, or how would I want to still incorporate it? And it's a lot of soul searching, if you will, in a way of figuring out how different passions you might have had prior to an illness or disability or a health change, how can those kind of still fit your life and serve you in a way that might be for a different purpose or a different lane or direction, but they still hold a purpose for you. So I think that's a nice way of framing it for people that kind of want to maybe try to go back to different activities or sports or dance or the arts that they might have done before an illness or disability. It's a good way to frame that mentality for them. So
yeah, there's always a way. There's always a way. Even when it doesn't seem like it, if you believe in it and believe in it strong enough, there will be a way. And if it's not that exact activity, it's what that activity, it's the essence of that activity that you'll be able to, you'll be able to embark on. Historically, disability has been a source of innovation. Some of the greatest inventions in the world have been designed out of disability. So, for example, the typewriter was invented as a result of a blind woman wanting to write a love letter in her privacy. Oh, early 1800s. Yeah. At that time, the only way to for a blind person to write anything was if that person voiced something and someone else wrote it down. But a love letter is something very private. You wouldn't want anyone to hear. So she happened to have an inventor friend by the name of Pellegrino Turri, who was like, all right, well, let me come up with a solution. So that became the first iteration of the typewriter. Email was invented by a deaf engineer who was trying to find a solution to communicate with his deaf wife at a distance. So, I like to believe that, I truly believe that our limitations are perceived limitations, and we can transform our limitations into limitless possibilities. And I believe that disabled people are like life hackers. We know how to hack our lives because this world is not built for us. And so whether you can see the disability or not, we are constantly trying to fit our environment to meet our bodies and to meet our needs. And that process is creative. So for anyone that does go through or goes through chronic illness or disability midlife, yes, it is hard. It's not an easy route, and I think each person's journey is different. So never compare your journey to someone else's. I think on social media sometimes sometimes people make their chronic illness lives and their disabled lives look very pretty and flowery, and who knows behind the scenes what they're dealing with. And so it's sometimes very easy to feel like you're not enough, you're not doing something, or but just know that everybody's journey is different. I think one of the best ways to heal is to actually make a difference and give back in some way, shape, or form. So
I love that's a good way to end, and not only end that segment, but end the first half of the episode as we go into our second half. And as always, before we, you guys have to hold on because we'll be getting to our favorite segment soon for all of you. But as always, I like to remind our listeners and viewers that I thank everyone who supports InvisiYouth charity and the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions. And as always, we pop our donate link on the screen you'll see and in the description and show notes, because all of our donations do go directly towards funding our resources and programs. They keep our lights on and keep these conversations and resources like the chat sessions going, so we can provide all of these for all of you. So if you are able to, or if you're able to share that with others that you know to help support and give back to this incredible community, we appreciate it so much. And so now we're going to go into your favorite segment and mine. It is So That One Time.
So that one time.
So that one time, you guys know the drill. This is where I sit back, I get to drink my coffee, and Marisa tells us a story. So Marisa, take it away.
Sure. So I want to tell a story when I was a senior in high school. As an aspiring ballerina who was constantly just being told, no, you don't have the right body, and having it very, very tough, as a ballet dancer. I was also, I was excelling a lot in high school, in school. And so at the end of my junior year, I was able to graduate high school early. But my parents, and at this time I was homeschooling, my parents at this time, really insisted that I graduate with real people around me. and I graduate high school in a positive way. So long story short, after doing some research, we found this wonderful performing arts boarding school 2 hours away from Los Angeles named Idlewild Arts Academy. And Idlewild Arts Academy was not only known for its excellent academics and arts education, it was also known for its diversity and inclusion. So this was one of those schools where gay kids got to be gay. And a good, I believe 15-20% of students are international students from abroad. So multiculturalism was celebrated. I received a scholarship to attend this school, and off I went. And I had a blast. This was the first time in my childhood at school where I felt like I belonged. And the dance curriculum was a variety. It wasn't just ballet. We learned modern dance. There was dance history class, dance anatomy class, dance appreciation, class. We went down the mountain, from the mountains of Idlewild, and got to go see performances. I mean, it was a very holistic dance education that we were getting. And it was, the dance department of 36 students, we all had all kinds of different bodies. It wasn't the skinny ballerina. We weren't all skinny ballerinas. Everybody had a very unique body. And it was not what you see at a traditional ballet school whatsoever. So this was the first time I really felt like I belonged. I had a blast all year. At the end of the year, the final dance concert was a student choreography concert where the senior dance students had an opportunity to choreograph something. So there was 36 students in the dance department, and 12 of us were seniors. And I was one of them. And we were assigned to choose our cast, choose our music, and turn that into the department office. That's what we did. A couple days later, when I knew that casting was going to be announced, I decided to sneak into the dance studio a little early. And because I wanted to see, which of my friends, which of my classmates had selected me into their work. So I walk into the dance studio with a heavy backpack on my back. The lights are dim. I stand in front of the bulletin board. There's 3 sheets of paper with the casting notice, and I'm going up and down, the pieces of paper. And I was in shock. My name was nowhere except for as choreographer for my own work. And I looked again, and my God, my name was nowhere, and it's one thing to be rejected and excluded from authority and teachers and institutions, but it's a whole nother thing when you're excluded from your own peers, and I mean, yeah, it hurts to not get that birthday invitation that you thought you would get. And it was that times probably 10, because this is dance and this is my passion. This is what I live for. And after having such an amazing year where I felt like I belonged, I felt betrayed. And so in front of this bulletin board, I started to cry, just feeling like I just wasn't, asking myself, gosh, am I just not good enough, talented enough? Am I just not cool enough? Is that what it is? And just feeling like a loser, altogether. And then as I looked up and down these 3 sheets of paper for another time, I realized something else, that there were 7 other students, mostly in the lower grades, who were also excluded from the show. And I looked at that going, hold on, that's not right. This is a student concert. This is a student dance concert. Everybody should be able to participate. This is Idlewild Arts Academy. It's known for its diversity and inclusion. And this is not right, that 7 students are not included in this. And so in that moment, out of the whim, I took out a pencil out of my backpack and wrote down all 7 names onto my own cast. And I barely knew these dancers, but, by the time student choreography dance concert came around, yes, I got to know them well. And this is my first time choreographing anything. So it was a challenge, but I think I did a pretty good job, really using each dancer's unique talents to create something special. So that year I was named Dance Major of the Year at commencement, but here was the bigger win. since I graduated high school, which is over 20 years now, there was a policy placed in the dance department ensuring that all dance students participate in the student choreography concert.
I love
And that policy is still there.
Good.
And so what I realized is that, wow, my small actions can lead to big change. And it was just me taking out a pencil and writing down 7 names. That's all it was. And that turned into impacting thousands of students, I think thousands, that have come through this program afterward. And that was also the moment that I took myself out of the seat of the victim into the driver's seat. And so that was in year 2000. And, 14, 15 years later, I took out the pencil again. And taking out the pencil now, this time for the 1 billion disabled people in the world. And that became Infinite Flow. And I'm still taking out that pencil. So my message and the lesson from this story is, like, when you come across a challenge or when you hit rock bottom, ask yourself some questions, and some of the questions are things like, who else is left out? Who else is experiencing the same thing you are? How can you serve? How can I use the talents and skills and experiences I have right now to make a difference? What can I do? Even given my circumstances, given my situation, what can I do right now? Start asking yourself those questions and you'll be surprised on what comes out of it. I'll be very honest, it's only in the last year that I realized that taking out this pencil has been a key moment in my life that has led to what I do today. So it's only recently that I've actually been telling this story. But knowing that this is InvisiYouth and we are talking to the youth, just know that, even if you are young, you have, when you find that there is an injustice or something is just not right, you have the power to actually take action and create change. And we all do, no matter what age we are. And it's not about the degrees you have, the money you have, the family that you come from. Like, it's really something that, we all have the ability to make change and make a difference.
That's not only, I really love that story, and that's not only such a great story to share, but it also transitions so perfectly. I think you answered 2 of my other questions that were going to be in the final segment in that story. So we're going to go right into our final segment, Break That Glass Ceiling.
Break that glass ceiling.
Break that glass ceiling.
Break that glass ceiling. There's so many different elements of stigma and misconception when it comes around chronic illness and disability and around that whole community. So with Marisa being such a big advocate, and as you heard from that incredible story in that previous segment, we wanted to talk about how for a lot of young people, it can feel kind of daunting at times when you'll hear the conversation of, oh, it's important to bring more diversity and inclusivity into your day to day. It can feel like a very large kind of social conversation and not something tangible that you can do in your day to day, because you're not given those examples of what could I be doing to be more inclusive or bring more diversity. So I was if you had sort of any sort of quick ways people could try to do that in their own circles.
Yeah, especially for things that you love to do, just ask yourself, who else is left out, And I really think that whether you're disabled or not, we can all make an effort towards welcoming others into our spaces. Disabled people too. I think disabled people can be cliquey and exclusive. And that's another thing, cliques. We all, as humans, we like to create cliques at any age and any community. We always have cliques. And I personally, when I find myself in a clique, I'm like, oh, hold on, I'm in a clique right now. let me transfer and either invite other people into the clique, so the new people into the clique, or let me get myself out of this clique and go talk to the people that are not in this clique, So, and I think, especially for young people, you go to any high school, there's cliques, you go to the lunch, high school, middle school, you go to the courtyard during lunch or cafeteria during lunch, and it's very cliquish. And so, but then there's always a few people that are left out. So maybe one day you decide, you know what, I'm going to go sit next to that one student who's always eating alone, and let me get to know them. Who knows, you might find your best friend. Like for me, it was opening myself up to one paraplegic athlete by the name of Adelpho, inviting him to dance. That led to my entire business, my entire career. And had I not opened myself up to this one person who would ever connect wheelchair user with dance? But I said, you know what, let's give this a try and see how this is. But just opening myself up to that one person led to so much. So we want to stay open. We want to stay open to connecting with people that we would usually not connect with, because you never know. And as humans, we tend to like to clump up with people that are like us, And I will say, I am part of disability circles. I am part of Asian American circles. Yes, it is also good to be around your kind. However, if you want to get the most out of life, I suggest hanging out with people that are not your kind, because you will learn something different and it will enrich your lives in ways that you don't even know, And so, and what's great about dance is that dance brings all these different types of people together, through one language, and that language is dance. And so this is why I love dance, because even if, you don't speak the same language, you're from different regions, different everything, you can still come together and dance.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's, I had 3 other questions in this segment and you had already answered them. So I was laughing going, we're going to pick one and end on I know Marissa's going to end it on an impactful note, and you just did it. So I was laughing going, well, this will be the shortest segment on the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, because I'm already. But I love that, like you said, it's about, like you said, reminding yourself, hey, let me look around and see what might be missing. And then reminding yourself to do that is such a small way. Even in the chronic illness space of, you're always kind of looking, is anybody kind of might be in my boat as well? And it's important to find the ones you can connect with in that immediate way, and then connect with from something totally different, and having connecting based on interest versus a diagnosis or something else that you might be similar on. So like you said, that's perfect way to end the episode, Marisa. And we got so many good nuggets of empowerment and information from you. So I'm thrilled that we got to have you on the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions today. I had an absolute blast, and I want to make sure that all of our listeners and viewers are able to find you and Infinite Flow Dance. So where can they do that?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, kind of on TikTok at Marisa Hamamoto, and you can follow Infinite Flow at Infinite Flow Dance. I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are the 2 platforms that I'm most active on, and followed by Facebook, I would say. And TikTok, I am working on my TikTok account, so who knows, that by the time this episode airs, I might be all over TikTok. Who knows?
I love that. We're going to have Marisa and Infinite Flow linked in the description and the show notes, so you guys can check it out. I highly recommend. They're both phenomenal follows. So, and as always, you can find InvisiYouth on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at InvisiYouth, and YouTube at InvisiYouth, and the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions on all audio podcast platforms. So make sure you've subscribed if you haven't, because we are at the end of our episode. And thank you again, Marisa, for being on the podcast, and I will speak with all of you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Dominique.